Welcome back to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this, because today we are tackling something incredibly profound. If you've spent years, or honestly, maybe even your entire life, struggling to build or maintain friendships, I really need you to hear this loud and clear right at the start. You are absolutely not broken. You're not inherently awkward, and you are definitely not the problem. Today we're going to look at the very real, heavily researched psychological reasons behind why connecting with others can feel so overwhelmingly difficult for you.
Have you ever stood in a crowded room, completely surrounded by chatter and laughter, and felt entirely alone? Like completely invisible? Really think about it. Because, for a lot of people, social life is just effortless. But for you, it often feels way heavier, way more complicated, and honestly, far more exhausting than it does for the average person. We're going to explore exactly why your brain processes social situations this way, and why that deep exhaustion you feel is actually rooted in something much bigger than just being shy.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the misunderstood social struggle, move on to your strict authenticity filter, and then unpack the heavy cognitive load. After that, we'll look at the protective social shield, and finally, your rich inner world. We're going to systematically break down these complex feelings and reframe what you might see as social flaws into your absolute greatest psychological strengths. All right, Section 1, the misunderstood social struggle. You are not the problem. Like I said, your struggles go so much deeper than just being socially inept or, lazy. And this brilliantly illustrates the divide between societal myth and psychological reality. Society loves to label people who keep to themselves as just awkward or antisocial, but psychology tells a totally different story. The reality? Keeping your circle small is a deliberate choice. You do it to protect your emotional energy. You highly value your peace, and you recognize that, let's face it, a lot of social circles are full of people who might smile to your face but talk behind your back. So protecting your energy? That's not antisocial. That's a highly rational choice. Moving on to Section 2, your strict authenticity filter. Craving depth. It's fascinating because research shows that as our self-awareness increases, our tolerance for inauthentic behavior drops dramatically. Think about how many times you've forced a smile during a conversation, just silently wishing it would end. That's because your brain is basically operating like a high-powered radar. It instantly detects insincerity, gossip, manipulation, hidden agendas, and fake personalities. And because your brain immediately spots these behaviors, casual socializing becomes incredibly painful. For you, authenticity is completely non-negotiable. You would literally rather be completely alone than spend another minute pretending to enjoy a shallow, fake conversation. This leads us to a really fascinating clinical concept called low social dependency. Basically, it means relying on internal validation rather than constantly seeking approval or attention from the crowd. A lot of people mistake this for loneliness or coldness, but it's neither. Being able to entertain yourself, solve problems alone, and genuinely find comfort in your own mind, that's profound independence. You'd rather wait for the right people than compromise your identity just to fit in. Make no mistake, that is a massive strength. I want you to just let this quote resonate for a second. You don't just want people around, you want people who feel like home. Wow. Small talk just feels like a complete waste of energy because your mind is uniquely wired to seek depth. You want to discuss big ideas, life purpose, deep feelings, and dreams, not just, what's up. And until you find those rare individuals who actually feel like home, silence often feels way safer than putting on a mask and pretending to connect. Section 3, the heavy cognitive load. Why you're exhausted. Let me ask you, do you regularly replay conversations in your head, hours, or sometimes even days after they happen? That is the absolute hallmark of a highly active mind. When you're in a social setting, you aren't just casually chatting. Your hyperconscious brain is simultaneously evaluating a literal mountain of data. We're talking the exact tone of voice, tiny physical gestures, fleeting facial expressions, the broader social context, and the hidden underlying emotions of everyone around you. Your highly sensitive nervous system is processing all of these inputs at the exact same time. It creates massive internal pressure, making even the most casual everyday conversations feel like you've just run a mental marathon. To put that into perspective, an extrovert effortlessly gains energy from being around crowds. It fuels them. But for you, because of that intensive processing we just talked about, your social battery depletes incredibly fast. You are not broken for wanting to leave the party early. Your nervous system is literally tapped out. For you, alone time isn't just some nice luxury. It is a completely essential biological and psychological need. Okay, Section 4, the protective social shield. Safe distance.
Over the years, past scars and that hyper-awareness we just discussed have basically forced your brain to build a highly protective defensive wall.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is it gives us the clinical terminology for why you've always felt different. It's called social incongruence. It happens when your specific personality, your humor, your deep interests, or just your unique way of thinking simply doesn't align with the environment around you. Because of this incongruence, you frequently choose distance over risk. It's not that you're antisocial, it's just that you have rarely, if ever, felt truly understood.
And we really have to acknowledge the invisible scars you carry. Look at how past experiences dictate your current psychology here. Being left out in childhood or betrayed by someone you trusted directly results in a hyper-protective brain. The fear of negative evaluation leads you to freeze up to avoid embarrassment. You set a remarkably high bar for trust. I really want you to realize something important here. When you observe from the sidelines or hesitate, you're not avoiding connection. You're avoiding rejection. You're protecting your vulnerable side because you've been hurt before. It is a completely natural human survival mechanism.
Finally, bringing us to Section 5, a rich inner world, your hidden superpower. This is where we flip the script, because all of these exhausting traits are actually the foundation of an incredibly rich inner world. Deep people rarely find friendships instantly. It happens in steps. First, you notice subtle details that others miss entirely. Second, you think deeply about absolutely everything you observe. Third, because of that depth, you feel emotions incredibly intensely. And finally, step 4, because you've gone through this rigorous emotional filtering, when you do finally connect, it lasts a lifetime. You don't make surface-level acquaintances. You form bonds that are extraordinarily rare and deeply meaningful. Which leads to this beautiful reality. Because you know exactly what it feels like to be misunderstood, and because you value authenticity above literally all else, you're incredibly careful with other people's hearts. The individuals who struggle the most socially often end up becoming the most intensely loyal, meaningful friends anyone could ever ask for. Not broken, just deep. Let that sink in for a second. Your mind simply works differently. It operates with way more depth, sensitivity, and awareness than society usually recognizes. If this explainer helped validate exactly how you've been feeling your whole life, be sure to subscribe so we can keep uncovering more powerful psychology insights about how your mind works. So, as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this question. Instead of forcing yourself to fit into a shallow world, what would happen if you finally embraced the immense power of your own depth? Thanks for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.